"Mom, when is Dad coming back?" 3-year-old Alice hugged my legs and looked at me eagerly. I looked down at her delicate little face and felt a mixture of emotions. It's been 3 years, and she doesn't even know what her father looks like. Soon she'll be able to see her father. I knelt down and gently stroked her little face. The divorce agreement on the table clearly stated, male party, Pierce, female party, Jennifer. 3 years ago, Pierce and I fell in love and got married. On our wedding day, he received an urgent assignment and left in a hurry. I haven't seen him since. The only connection was the monthly allowance of $30,000 that arrived on time every month. There were no phone calls, no video calls, not even a single text message. When I was pregnant, I called the military, and the person who answered said that Pierce was on a classified mission and could not be contacted. When I gave birth, it was still the same. Now my child is 3 years old, and it's still the same. Yesterday, I finally received the notice from the military. Pierce filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and incompatibility. I stared at the cold piece of paper, unable to even cry. 3 years of waiting, 3 years of waiting, and all I got was a divorce paper. Mom, don't cry. I'll blow on your eyes. Alice stood on tiptoe and blew on the corners of my eyes. I picked her up and walked to the window. Outside was a bustling city, with cars rushing by and lights shining brightly. And I felt like I had been forgotten by the entire world. Alice, shall we go find Dad? Really? Alice's eyes lit up. Alice wants to see Dad. I picked up my phone and dialed the number of Pierce's comrade, Frank. Sister-in-law? Frank's voice sounded surprised. Frank, where is Pierce now? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Sister-in-law, this. I'm not really at liberty to say. Frank, I'm his wife. I have the right to know where he is. My voice trembled slightly. Sister-in-law, Pierce, he might not want to see you. He doesn't want to see me? I clenched my teeth and held back the tears. Which unit is he in? The 3rd Division of the U.S. Army in South Korea. Frank hesitated for a moment before finally speaking. After hanging up, I immediately booked a flight to Seoul for the next day. Since he wanted a divorce, I had to talk to him face to face. Besides, Alice was his daughter, and he had a responsibility to see her. That night, I packed my bags in a hurry. Alice was so excited that she couldn't sleep. She kept asking, Mom, is Dad handsome? Yes, he's handsome. I stroked her little head. Then why isn't Dad coming home? I was taken aback and didn't know how to respond. Yes, why didn't he come home? Why didn't he even call? Why did he file for divorce? I had to ask him these questions myself. The next morning, I took a flight to Seoul with Alice. 3 hours later, the plane landed at Seoul Airport. I took a taxi straight to the military zone gate. Excuse me, I'm looking for Pierce, I said to the soldier at the gate. Who are you? I'm his wife. The soldier made a phone call and then said, please wait a moment, someone will come to pick you up. After waiting for about 10 minutes, a young officer in military uniform walked over. Hello, I am Staff Officer Irving. Pierce is not with the unit. Not here? Where did he go? Staff Officer Irving looked at Alice in my arms and hesitated. Staff Officer Irving, please tell me the truth. I am his wife, and this is his daughter. Irving looked at me intently. Come with me. We entered the unit's reception room. Ms. Jennifer, Pierce was discharged a month ago. Discharged? I was stunned. Where is he now? We're not quite sure either. Irving's words are clearly a lie. Irving, please tell me. I've been looking for him for 3 years, I can't just give up now. Irving hesitated for a long time before finally saying, he seems to have started a company in Seoul, but I really don't know the exact address. A company? When did Pierce have enough money to start a company? When we got married, his family was ordinary and lived entirely on his military allowance. Now he has enough money to start a company? What happened in these 3 years? As we stepped out of the military base gate, I stood on the side of the road with Alice in my arms, unsure of where to go. Seoul was so big. Where could we find Pierce? Mommy, where's Daddy? Alice asked in a soft voice. Daddy is working. I took out my phone and searched for Pierce Seoul Company. It actually came up. ABA Technology Company, Limited, Legal Representative, Pierce. Registered capital, 50 million. 50 million? My hands were shaking. Where did Pierce get 50 million? I immediately hailed a taxi and headed to the address of ABA Technology. An hour later, the car pulled up in Seoul's busiest business district. Before me stood a 40-story office building, and ABA Technology was located on the 36th floor. I carried Alice in my arms as we took the elevator up. As the elevator doors opened, I saw the golden sign for ABA Technology Company. At the front desk was a young, pretty girl dressed in a professional suit with her makeup done perfectly. Hello, how may I help you? I'm looking for Pierce. Do you have an appointment? I'm his wife. The receptionist paused for a moment, her expression becoming somewhat strange. Please hold, I'll call President Pierce. She picked up the landline and dialed the extension. Mr. Pierce, there's a woman here claiming to be your wife. All right, I understand. After hanging up, the receptionist's expression grew even colder. Mr. Pierce said he's very busy and doesn't have time to see any visitors. No time to see visitors? I'm his wife, and he treats me like a guest? Call again and tell him Jennifer is here with his daughter. The receptionist hesitated, then dialed the internal number again. This time, Pierce answered the phone. I clearly heard a man's deep voice on the other end. Tell her to wait. Wait. I sat down on the sofa at the front desk, with Alice playing with a small toy in my arms. After waiting for an entire hour, someone finally arrived. It was a middle-aged man wearing a suit. Ms. Jennifer, I am Tom, the assistant to President Pierce. President Pierce asked me to inform you that he is currently very busy. If this is regarding the divorce, you may sign the documents directly. As he spoke, Tom took a document out of his briefcase. It was the same divorce agreement. I want to see Pierce himself. The president of Pierce said there's nothing to discuss between you two. Here's $100,000 for child support. Tom pulled out another check. $10,000? I stood up and looked coldly at Tom. Tell Pierce he can avoid me, but he must see his daughter. Ms. Jennifer, Mr. Pierce's position is clear. If you refuse to sign, we will resolve this through legal channels. Legal channels? Is he really willing to go to court with me? Just then, the elevator doors opened. A tall figure stepped out. It was Pierce. 3 years had passed, and he had changed a lot. His once slender figure had become muscular, his facial features more rugged, and he was wearing an expensive handmade suit. He exuded the aura of a successful man. However, the look in his eyes as he looked at me was as cold as ice. Dad. Alice suddenly broke free from my embrace and stumbled toward Pierce. Pierce's body froze. He looked down at Alice, his expression so complex that I couldn't understand it. Alice hugged his legs and looked up at him with her little face and said, Daddy, Alice misses you. Pierce's Adam's apple bobbed, but quickly he squatted down and pushed Alice away. Little one, you've got the wrong person. Mistaken identity? My heart ached as if it had been cut by a knife. Pierce, what are you saying? He stood up and looked at me coldly. Jennifer, we're divorced. We haven't signed the papers yet. In my heart, we've been divorced for a long time. Alice was pushed to the ground and burst into tears. I quickly picked her up, tears streaming down my face. Pierce, she's your daughter. I don't have a daughter. Pierce turned to leave. Stop right there. I shouted. Explain yourself. Where have you been for the past 3 years? Why didn't you even call once? Why do you want a divorce now? Pierce stopped in his tracks but didn't turn around. Jennifer, there are some things you don't need to know. Once we sign the divorce papers, we'll be even. Even? 3 years of marriage, 3 years of waiting, and now we're even? Pierce, you've changed. Yes, I've changed. He finally turned around, his eyes cold and unfamiliar to me. I was no longer the penniless Pierce he once knew. After saying that, he strode toward the elevator. I held Alice, who was crying, and watched his back disappear into the elevator. The employees around us were secretly watching us and whispering. I heard someone say, "So President Pierce has a wife and children. It looks like they're getting divorced. President Pierce is so rich now, he'll definitely find someone better." I rushed out of the company with Alice in my arms. In the elevator, I finally couldn't help but burst into tears. Is this really the Pierce I know? That night, I checked into a hotel in Seoul with Alice. Alice cried for a long time before falling asleep, her little face still wet with tears. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching her sleep, my heart aching. My daughter was still so young, and already she had to endure her father's rejection and indifference. I took out my phone and scrolled through my chat history with Pierce. The last message he sent was 3 years ago. "Jennifer, I'm going on a mission. Take care of yourself." Since then, there has been no further communication. I sent him countless messages. "Pierce, I'm pregnant. Pierce, our daughter was born, and she looks just like you. Pierce, Alice can say daddy now. Pierce, when are you coming home?" Every message was met with silence. Now I realized that he had long since given up on this family. The next morning, I was awakened by the ringing of my cell phone. It was an unfamiliar number. "Hello? Is this Jennifer? I'm a reporter and I'd like to ask you a few questions about Pierce." "Reporter? What would you like to know?" "Pierce has been very active in the business world lately, and we would like to do an interview. I heard you are his wife." I hesitated. "We are in the process of getting a divorce." "Divorce? Why?" "Pierce is so successful in his career. This is a private matter, and I'm not at liberty to discuss it." I hung up the phone, feeling even more confused. Pierce is very active in the business world? What kind of business is he in that he was able to accumulate so much wealth in such a short period of time? I decided to investigate. I dropped Alice off at the hotel's childcare center and started gathering information about Pierce. Soon, I found some clues. ABA Technology Company primarily engages in the civilian conversion of military technology. Leveraging his experience and connections in the military, Pierce secured several major projects in just 1 year. No wonder he was able to earn so much money. But is all this money his alone? I searched again for the shareholding structure of ABA Technology. Pierce holds 60% of the shares, and there are 2 other shareholders. One of them is called Lena, who holds 30%. Lena? That name sounded familiar. I kept searching and finally found Lena's photo. She was a beautiful woman in her 30s, dressed in expensive clothes and behaving elegantly. The caption under the photo reads, "Lena, rising star of the Seoul business world, co-founder of ABA Technology." Co-founder? My heart skipped a beat. What is Pierce's relationship with this woman? I continued searching and found more information about Lena. She is the daughter of a wealthy family in Seoul, graduated from a prestigious overseas university, and has been working in the business world since returning to Korea. Most importantly, she is not married. An unmarried woman is running a company with my husband and has such a large share of the company. There must be more to their relationship than just business. The more I think about it, the more I feel that something is wrong. Could Pierce be divorcing me because of this woman? Just then, my phone rang again. This time it was Frank calling. "Sister-in-law, I heard you went to find Pierce?" "Yes, but he doesn't acknowledge Alice and wants to divorce me." Frank paused for a moment. "Sister-in-law, there are some things I think you should know." What happened? After Pierce left the military, a lot changed. He's got money now and other women in his life. Other women. Is it Lena? Frank exclaimed in surprise, you know? My heart feels like it's been hit by a sledgehammer. When did they get together? About a year ago, I think. Lena is very capable and wealthy, and she has helped Pierce a lot. What about Alice and me? Sister-in-law, I advise you to sign the divorce agreement. Pierce is not the same person he used to be. I hung up the phone and felt completely numb. It turned out that Pierce wasn't just changed, he had another woman. And I, like a fool, had waited for him for 3 years. No, I couldn't just give up like this. Even if he doesn't want me anymore, Alice is his daughter, and he can't just abandon her. I'm going to find Lena and see what kind of woman she really is. In the afternoon, I found out that Lena often frequents the most exclusive business club in Seoul. I changed into formal attire, applied light makeup, and took a taxi to the club. The club had a high threshold and required membership to enter. However, I had a solution. I informed the front desk that I was there to apply for a public relations manager position, and they asked me to wait in the lobby. While waiting, I carefully observed the guests coming and going. After waiting for about an hour, I finally saw Lena. She was even more beautiful than in the photos, wearing a Chanel suit and carrying the latest Hermès bag. There were several other men around them, all of whom looked like business executives. But what shocked me was that Pierce was among them. They were chatting and laughing, looking very close. Lena even touched Pierce's arm from time to time, and Pierce didn't refuse. Tears welled up in my eyes. This was the man I had waited 3 years for? This was Alice's father? I hid behind a pillar, watching Pierce and Lena interact, my heart aching. They looked like a loving couple, completely at ease with each other. Pierce pulled out a chair for Lena, helped her order, and whispered something in her ear from time to time, making Lena giggle. I hadn't seen such tenderness in 3 years. Suddenly, Lena stood up and walked toward the restroom. I quickly hid in the restroom and pretended to touch up my makeup. Lena walked in and started fixing her makeup in front of the mirror. Her skin was flawless, her makeup impeccable, she looked like a woman who frequented high-end establishments. Hello, I mustered up the courage to speak. Lena glanced at me through the mirror and nodded politely. Hello. May I ask if you know Pierce? Lena's hand stopped, and she turned to look at me. I'm Jennifer. Lena's expression changed instantly. It was his wife. I've heard a lot about you, she said with a hint of sarcasm. You know me? Of course I do. Pierce mentioned you. Lena smoothed her hair. But he said you two were divorced. We haven't signed the papers yet. It's only a matter of time. Lena's tone was calm. Miss Jennifer, I advise you to sign the papers as soon as possible. Pierce is not the same man he used to be. He is Alice's father, and he has a responsibility. Responsibility? Lena scoffed. Miss Jennifer, do you know how much Pierce is worth now? Do you know how many deals he has to handle every day? He doesn't have time to take care of a child. She's his daughter. Really? Lena suddenly leaned close to me and whispered, Miss Jennifer, are you sure that child is Pierce's? What do you mean? I stared at her in disbelief. What are you talking about? 3 years ago, after Pierce left, you were alone at home. Didn't you have any other men? You're talking nonsense. Only you know whether you're talking nonsense or not. Lena reapplied her lipstick. Miss Jennifer, I advise you not to pursue Pierce anymore. He has better options now. With that, she walked out in her high heels. I stood in the bathroom, trembling all over. Lena's words pierced my heart like a poisonous snake. She actually suspected that Alice wasn't Pierce's daughter. That was absurd. Alice looked just like Pierce, with his features in her eyebrows and eyes. I took a few deep breaths to calm myself down, then walked out of the bathroom. Pierce and the others were still sitting there, and Lena had returned to her seat. She whispered something in Pierce's ear, and his expression immediately turned ugly. Then he turned his head and fixed his gaze directly on me. I was startled by his gaze and quickly turned to leave. But before I could take a few steps, a large hand grabbed my wrist. "Jennifer, are you following me?" Pierce's voice was cold, and he gripped my wrist tightly, causing it to ache. "I wasn't following you. I just wanted to know the truth." "What truth?" "Your relationship with Lena, why you wanted a divorce, why you don't acknowledge Alice." Pierce's gaze grew even colder. "None of that is any of your business. I'm your wife." "Ex-wife." Pierce corrected me. "Jennifer, it's over between us." "What about Alice?" "She's your daughter." Pierce paused for a moment, then said, "Let's do a paternity test." "A paternity test?" I couldn't believe my ears. "Pierce, have you lost your mind? Alice is clearly your daughter. Prove it scientifically." "Pierce, let go of my wrist. If the child is really mine, I will pay child support. If not." He didn't finish, but his meaning was clear. Tears welled up in my eyes. "Pierce, you've changed so much I don't even recognize you anymore. I told you, I'm not the same Pierce I used to be." With that, he turned and walked back to his seat. Lena looked at me, her eyes brimming with triumph. I stood there feeling like the whole world was laughing at me. The other guests were secretly watching me and whispering. I couldn't stand it anymore and turned and ran out of the club. Standing on the street, I cried my eyes out. 3 years of waiting, 3 years of perseverance, only to end up with this result. Pierce not only rejected me, but also suspected that Alice was not his daughter. How could he do this to me? We had such wonderful memories, and he once said he would protect me forever. Now those words are nothing but a joke. I wiped away my tears and took out my phone. If he wants a paternity test, then so be it. I'll make him see that Alice is his daughter. I'll make him feel ashamed for his doubts. The next day, I took Alice to the most authoritative hospital in Seoul for a paternity test. Alice didn't know why she had to have her blood drawn and cried the whole time. "Mommy, it hurts. It'll be over soon." I held her close, my heart aching for her. Why did a 3-year-old have to go through this? Why was she being doubted? It was all Pierce's fault. The paternity test would take a week to come back. That week felt like an eternity. Although I was 100% certain that Alice was Pierce's daughter, his doubts still hurt me deeply. I began to recall that time 3 years ago. Back then, Pierce was gentle and considerate. Although his family was not well off, he treated me very well. We were introduced by a mutual friend. At the time, he was just an ordinary soldier, and I was an elementary school teacher. Although the conditions weren't great, we loved each other very much. It was a bit of a rush to get married, but at the time we both felt we had found the right person. The wedding was simple, held at a small hotel near my home. But Pierce promised me that when he had money, he would throw me a grand wedding. Now that he has money, he wants to divorce me. Can people really change so much? Just as I was lost in my thoughts, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number. "Hello? Is this Ms. Jennifer?" "Yes. This is Attorney Carter from the law firm. Mr. Pierce has retained us to handle your divorce case." "Another divorce?" "Mr. Carter, we haven't reached an agreement yet. Ms. Jennifer, Mr. Pierce's position is clear. If you refuse to sign, we will file for divorce through the court." "Why should the court force us to divorce?" "The couple has been separated for 3 years, and their relationship has clearly broken down. The court will grant the divorce." "Separated for 3 years?" "Yes, Pierce hasn't been home in 3 years. Legally speaking, we have been separated for 3 years. Mr. Carter, even if we do get divorced, we still have to settle the division of property and child custody. Regarding the division of property, Mr. Pierce is willing to give you $1 million as compensation. As for the children..." Attorney Carter paused. "What about the children?" "Mr. Pierce has questions about the children's identity and needs a paternity test to confirm it. We are already working on it." Then please wait for the results of the appraisal before we discuss further matters. After hanging up the phone, I felt even more depressed. Pierce was determined to divorce me and had even hired a lawyer. $1 million in compensation? Does he think he can get rid of me with money? I don't want money. I want a complete family. I want Alice to have a father. Just then, there was a knock on the hotel room door. I opened the door and saw Frank. Frank? What are you doing here? Sis, I have something to tell you. I let him in, and Alice was watching cartoons. Alice, call Uncle. Hello, Uncle. Alice greeted him sweetly. Frank looked at Alice with a complicated expression. She really looks like Pierce when he was little. Right? But he doesn't recognize her. Frank sighed. Sister-in-law, Pierce has actually had a difficult time these past 3 years. Not easy? He's successful in his career now and has beautiful women around him. What's not easy about that? You don't know how much pressure he's been under to make money. After leaving the military, he did all kinds of dirty and hard work to accumulate wealth quickly. That's no reason to abandon your wife and daughter. Frank hesitated, then said, Sister-in-law, Pierce never forgot you. I was stunned. What do you mean? He always kept your wedding photo and Alice's photo in his office. So why did he want a divorce? Because Lena threatened him. Threatened? What kind of threat? Lena said that if Pierce didn't divorce you, she would withdraw her investment, and ABA Technology would go bankrupt. I was so shocked I couldn't speak. So that's what happened. Why did Lena do that? Because she fell in love with Pierce and wanted him all to herself. I felt a mixture of emotions. On the one hand, I was glad that Pierce still had feelings for me. On the other hand, I was disappointed in his weakness. Frank, if he cares about me, why doesn't he just tell me the truth? Because he doesn't want you to worry. And he thinks Lena can give you a better life now. A better life? I smiled bitterly. I don't want a better life, I want a complete family. Frank nodded. I know, but Pierce is in too deep now, it's hard for him to get out. Is there any way we can help him? Unless we find something to hold Lena over the barrel, it'll be tough. A weakness? I fell into deep thought. Lena seemed perfect. Could she really have a weakness? Just then, my phone rang. It was the hospital. Ms. Jennifer, the results of your paternity test are in. Please come pick them up. My heart started racing. Although I was certain that Alice was Pierce's daughter, I couldn't help feeling nervous before receiving the report. Frank, keep an eye on Alice while I go get the paternity report. Sure, sister-in-law. I rushed to the hospital and took the test results from the doctor's hands. I took a deep breath and opened the report. It confirmed biological father-son relationship, with a paternity probability of 99.99%. Tears welled up in my eyes. Alice was Pierce's daughter. I had to tell Pierce this result immediately and make him feel ashamed for his doubts. Holding the paternity test report, I rushed straight to ABA Technology. This time, I ignored the receptionist's attempts to stop me and barged straight into Pierce's office. Pierce was in a video conference and frowned when he saw me walk in. The meeting was paused for 5 minutes. He turned off the video. Jennifer, who let you in? I placed the paternity test report on his desk. Take a look. This is the paternity test report you requested. Pierce picked up the report and read it through, his expression becoming very complicated. Now you believe Alice is your daughter, don't you? Pierce was silent for a long time, then said, I'll pay child support. I don't want child support. I shouted. I want you to acknowledge her, love her, and be a decent father. Jennifer, it's over between us. Why? Because of Lena? Pierce's eyes flickered. This has nothing to do with Lena. Nothing to do with it? Pierce, Frank told me everything. Lena threatened you, saying that if you didn't divorce me, she would withdraw her investment. Pierce's expression changed instantly. What did Frank tell you? He said there's still our wedding photo in your office, that you still have feelings for me. Pierce stood up and walked to the window. Jennifer, some things are complicated, it's not what you think. Then tell me the truth. Pierce turned around, his eyes filled with pain. The truth is that we're not right for each other. You should find a better man. I don't want a better man, I just want you. My words made Pierce's body tremble slightly. Just then, the office door opened. Lena walked in, followed by several men in suits. Pierce, what's going on? Lena looked at me with a hostile expression. Nothing, we're done talking. Pierce regained his composure. Miss Jennifer, please leave. Don't disturb our work. Lena's tone was very rude. This is my husband's office. Why should I leave? Ex-husband, Lena corrected me. This is our company. You have no right to cause trouble here. I didn't cause any trouble. Enough. Pierce suddenly shouted, Jennifer, you leave. I looked at Pierce, feeling utterly defeated. Fine, I'll go. But Pierce, Alice is your daughter. That's a fact that can't be changed. I turned to leave, but as I passed Lena, she suddenly grabbed my wrist. Miss Jennifer, let's talk. She pulled me into the conference room outside the office. Lena, what do you want to say? I want to make a deal with you. What kind of deal? You sign the divorce papers, and I'll give you $5 million. $5 million? I scoffed. Do you think I'm asking for money? It's not about the money. Then what do you want? I want my husband. I want a complete family. Lena's eyes turned cold. Miss Jennifer, do you think Pierce is still the same poor boy he was 3 years ago? No matter how rich he is, he can't change the fact that he is Alice's father. Really? Lena suddenly smiled. Miss Jennifer, do you know why Pierce agreed to the paternity test so easily? I was stunned. What do you mean? Because he's not sure if the child is his either. You're lying. 3 years ago, 3 months after Pierce left, you went to a bar and were seen getting close to a man. My head buzzed. 3 years ago, I did go to a bar. That was after I found out I was pregnant, and I was feeling really down and wanted to find somewhere to let off steam. There were men who hit on me at the bar, but I didn't do anything. So what? I didn't do anything to hurt Pierce. Really? What's that man's name? I froze. Indeed, I couldn't remember the man's name. You don't remember, do you? Lena smiled smugly. Miss Jennifer, a pregnant woman showing up at a bar late at night and getting involved with a stranger, what does that say? What does that mean? It means you have a problem with your character. I was so angry I was shaking. Lena, you're being too harsh. Too harsh? I'm just stating the facts. Lena straightened her clothes. Miss Jennifer, I advise you to be sensible and stop pursuing Pierce. I'm clinging to him? I'm his wife. Ex-wife. And soon, I'll be his fiancé. Fiancé? My heart felt like it was being struck by a heavy hammer. You two are getting married? Next month. Lena held out her left hand, which was adorned with a huge diamond ring on her ring finger. Pierce just proposed. I felt dizzy and almost fell over. Pierce is going to marry Lena? They're already engaged? No way, we're not divorced yet. It's just a matter of time. Lena looked at my pained expression, smirking. Miss Jennifer, be realistic. Pierce doesn't love you anymore. I rushed out of the conference room and ran straight back to Pierce's office. Pierce, you're engaged? Pierce looked at Lena and nodded. Yes. My world completely collapsed. Pierce, how could you do this to me? We're not even divorced yet, and you're already engaged to another woman? Jennifer, our marriage has been dead for years. What about Alice? She's your daughter, and the paternity test proved it. Pierce paused for a moment, then said, I'll give her the best life possible, but I can't get back together with you. Because I don't love you anymore. Those words cut me like a knife, piercing deep into my heart. You don't love me anymore? What about all the promises you made? What about spending the rest of our lives together? Was it all a lie? Looking at Pierce's unfamiliar face, I suddenly understood. Pierce, you've changed. You're not the person I knew anymore. Yes, I've changed, Pierce said coldly. I'm no longer that poor kid who had nothing. After saying that, he pressed the internal phone. Security, please ask Ms. Jennifer to leave. The security guard arrived quickly and tried to drag me out. Pierce, you'll regret this. As I stepped out of the ABA Technology Company building, I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. 3 years of waiting, 3 years of perseverance, and this was the result. Pierce not only wanted to divorce me, but he also wanted to marry Lena. And I had become the biggest joke. I was walking aimlessly down the street, my mind in turmoil. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Frank. Ms. Jennifer, Alice has suddenly come down with a fever. Could you come pick her up? I quickly hailed a taxi back to the hotel, then took Alice to the hospital. Alice's little face was bright red, and she leaned listlessly against me. Mom, Alice feels sick. It's okay, sweetie. Mom will take you to see the doctor. At the hospital, the doctor said Alice had a cold and fever due to the unfamiliar environment and emotional turmoil. Has the child been through anything traumatic recently? The doctor asked. I remembered how Alice had seen Pierce reject her yesterday, and I felt so sorry for her. Yes, there was something. Be careful, children's physical and mental health are very important. The doctor prescribed some medicine for Alice, and we returned to the hotel. After taking the medicine, Alice fell asleep, and I sat by her bedside watching over her. Looking at her pale little face, my heart was torn apart. It's all my fault. I insisted on coming to find Pierce, and that's why Alice was hurt. But am I really willing to give up like this and let Lena marry Pierce and gloat over me? What should I do? I suggest you call the police first and let them investigate. Will the police take the case? If there is sufficient evidence, the police will take the case. I held the documents in my hands, feeling complicated. On the one hand, I'm glad I found something on Lena. On the other hand, I'm worried about Pierce. If Lena really wants to harm him, he's in danger now. Christopher, is there anything else we can do besides calling the police? Christopher thought for a moment. You can try to contact people close to Pierce, such as his assistant or colleagues, and ask them to pass on this information. But will they believe me? That depends on your powers of persuasion. I'll pack up my things and get going. Christopher, thank you. Ms. Jennifer, be careful. Lena is not an ordinary person. If she finds out you are investigating her, it could be detrimental to you. Christopher's words make me even more worried. But for Pierce's sake, for Alice's sake, I must take this risk. Back at the hotel, I immediately called Frank. Frank, I found Lena's weakness. What weakness? I told Frank everything Christopher had found out. After listening, Frank was so shocked he couldn't speak for a while. My God, Lena is so terrifying. Frank, can you try to get in touch with Pierce? He needs to know about this. I'll try, but Pierce is completely under Lena's control right now, so it's hard to get close to him. What should we do? We can't just stand by and let him get hurt. Frank was silent for a moment. Sister-in-law, I have an idea. What idea? We can find a way to expose Lena. How? Tomorrow night, Lena and Pierce are attending a business dinner. You can find a way to sneak in and expose her in person. Expose her in person? It's risky, but it might be my only chance. Frank, can you help me get an invitation? I'll figure something out. After hanging up the phone, I started preparing for tomorrow's plan. I was going to expose Lena's true colors in front of everyone. Let everyone see what a ruthless woman she is. This might be my last chance. If I fail, I will truly lose Pierce. But I must try. For Pierce, for Alice, for our home. The next afternoon, Frank sent me an invitation to the dinner party. Sister-in-law, I got this through my connections. The dinner party will be held at the Seoul Hotel, starting at 8 o'clock. Thank you, Frank. Sister-in-law, you need to be careful. Lena has many friends in the business world. If your accusations are not backed up by sufficient evidence, it could backfire. I know, but I have to try. At 7 o'clock in the evening, I put on my most formal evening gown and applied my makeup carefully. In the mirror, I saw a stranger. I was no longer the innocent elementary school teacher I had been 3 years ago. To protect my family, I can become tough and brave. I put all the information Christopher gave me into my handbag and set off for the Seoul Resort Hotel. Tonight is the final showdown. The hotel banquet hall was brightly lit, filled with the scent of perfume and the sound of laughter. Korean business elites gathered together, clinking glasses and discussing business and cooperation. I entered the venue with my invitation and immediately spotted Pierce and Lena. They stood in the center of the hall, surrounded by a crowd of people. Pierce wore a black tailcoat and looked handsome and tall. Lena wore a red evening gown and looked elegant and charming. They looked like a perfect golden couple. But I know it's all an illusion. I hold a glass of champagne and slowly approach them. ABA technology has a very promising future. We've already secured several major projects. Pierce is telling several investors about the company. Pierce's president is really young and talented. Miss Lena has good taste. A middle-aged man praised. Lena held Pierce's arm and smiled sweetly. Pierce is indeed very talented. I'm so lucky to have met him. Hearing her hypocritical words, I almost couldn't help but rush over. But I restrained myself. I will wait for the right moment. Friends, thank you all for coming tonight. The host walked onto the stage and said, "Tonight, we are about to witness a special moment. Mr. Pierce is going to propose to Miss Lena here." A proposal? My heart nearly stopped beating. The guests around me let out surprised cries and applauded enthusiastically. Pierce took out a beautiful ring box from his pocket, knelt down on one knee, and said, "Lena, will you marry me?" Lena pretended to be very surprised, covering her mouth with her hands and squeezing out a few tears from her eyes. "Pierce, I will." The scene erupted into enthusiastic applause and well wishes. Watching this scene, my heart ached deeply. But I knew that now was the best time. Everyone was here, and all the media were filming. I took a deep breath and walked boldly toward the stage. "Wait a minute!" I shouted loudly. The venue instantly fell silent, and everyone looked at me. Pierce saw me and his expression immediately turned ugly. "Jennifer, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to stop a scam." I walked up to the stage and took out the documents from my handbag. "Everyone, do you know who Lena is?" Lena's face turned pale in an instant. "Miss Jennifer, please don't talk nonsense here." I sneered and held up Williamson's photo. "This is Lena's husband in the United States, Williamson, an 80-year-old man. Lena married him in a sham marriage to obtain a green card, then laced his food with a slow-acting poison, killing him and inheriting a $50 million fortune." The crowd was in an uproar, and the guests began to whisper among themselves. "You're lying!" Lena screamed, "These are all fake." "Fake?" I pulled out other documents. "This is Williamson's death certificate. The autopsy report shows he had chronic toxins in his body. These are the legal documents regarding Lena's inheritance. Are these fake too?" Pierce took the documents and looked through them, his expression growing increasingly grim. "Lena, what is going on?" Lena panicked. She looked around at the growing number of suspicious glances and knew that her scheme had been exposed. "Pierce, don't listen to her nonsense. This woman is just jealous of us." "Jealous?" I continued to pull out the documents. Everyone, after Lena returned to the country, she also approached several other wealthy men. This is Cameron. After dating Lena for 6 months, his company was maliciously acquired, went bankrupt, and he jumped to his death. This is Donovan. 3 months after getting engaged to Lena, he died of a sudden heart attack. He had just purchased a $50 million insurance policy, with Lena as the beneficiary. The guests at the scene began to stir, and some took out their phones to start recording. Also, I looked at Pierce. Lena recently bought you a life insurance policy worth $100 million, with herself as the beneficiary. Pierce, do you know what that means? Pierce's expression completely changed. He looked at Lena in shock. Lena, is this true? Seeing that everything had been exposed, Lena suddenly tore off her mask of pretense. So what if it was? She sneered, those men are all idiots, they deserve to be used by me. The scene fell silent. As for you, Pierce, do you really think I love you? All I care about is the technology and patents you have. Once I get them, you will be of no use to me. Pierce took a few steps back, unable to believe what he had heard. Why would you do this? Why? Lena laughed loudly, because that's how cruel the world is. The weak are meant to be trampled by the strong. All I want is money and power. As for love, that's just a fairy tale that only fools believe in. After saying that, she suddenly pulled out a small knife from her evening gown and stabbed Pierce. Now that our plan has been exposed, you're going to die. Watch out! I shouted, rushing forward to block Pierce. The knife stabbed into my shoulder, and the intense pain nearly made me faint. But I held Pierce tightly, not letting Lena hurt him again. Hold her. The security guards at the scene rushed over and subdued Lena. Pierce held me, saw the blood on my shoulder, and his eyes were filled with guilt and pain. Jennifer, why did you do this? Because I love you. I said weakly, because Alice needs a dad. Pierce's tears finally fell. Jennifer, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I almost ruined you and Alice. It's okay, as long as you're safe. Soon, ambulances and police cars arrived. Lena was taken away by the police, and I was sent to the hospital for treatment. Although the wounds were not deep, I had lost a lot of blood and needed to be hospitalized for observation. Pierce stayed by my side the entire time. Jennifer, can you forgive me? I looked at his red, swollen eyes, and the resentment in my heart slowly dissipated. Pierce, I have never blamed you. I know you were forced to do it. No, I was definitely wrong. I shouldn't have doubted Alice, and I shouldn't have doubted you. Pierce held my hand. Jennifer, can we start over? What about Alice? Will you be her father? Of course, she's my daughter, my precious. Pierce's voice choked up. I'll make it up to you, make up for the 3 years I lost. Just then, the ward door opened. Frank walked in holding Alice. Mom. Alice saw me lying on the hospital bed and immediately started crying. Mom's hurt. Alice, don't cry. Mom's fine. I reached out with my uninjured arm and hugged her. Alice turned her head and saw Pierce, timidly calling out, Daddy. Pierce's tears began to flow again as he gently stroked Alice's little face. Alice, Daddy is so sorry. Daddy will never leave you again. Really? Alice asked, blinking her big eyes. Really, Dad promises. Alice clapped her hands happily. That's great. Alice has a dad now. Watching this heartwarming scene, tears welled up in my eyes. But this time, they were tears of joy. Our family was finally reunited. 3 months later, my injuries had completely healed. Lena was formally charged by the police with intentional assault and suspicion of multiple counts of fraud and murder. During the subsequent investigation, the police discovered that she was indeed directly involved in the deaths of Williamson and several other men. She faces a life sentence. Pierce bought back all of Lena's shares, and ABA Technology became his company once again. Although he lost a lot of money, the core technology remained intact, and the company quickly resumed normal operations. We are officially back together. Pierce personally arranged a grand wedding for me and invited all of our friends and family. This wedding was even more romantic and grand than the one 3 years ago. Alice wore a pink little dress and was our flower girl. She was so happy, saying, Alice has a daddy and a mommy. At the wedding, Pierce gave a touching speech. 3 years ago, I left home for work and left behind my beloved wife. Over the past 3 years, I have made many mistakes and nearly lost the most precious thing in my life. But Jennifer, with her determination and courage, not only saved me, but also saved our family. From now on, I swear that I will never let anyone hurt them again, and I will never leave them. Jennifer, Alice, I love you. Loud applause erupted from the audience. I looked at the handsome Pierce on stage and thought back to the hardships and waiting of the past 3 years. Although the process was painful, the outcome was beautiful. Our love has been tested and has grown stronger. After the wedding, the 3 of us went to the Maldives for our honeymoon. This was something Pierce promised me, to give me an unforgettable honeymoon trip. In the seaside villa, Alice saw the sea for the first time and was extremely excited. "Mom, the sea is so big and blue." "Yes, it's as vast as your mom and dad's love." Pierce hugged me from behind and whispered in my ear, "Jennifer, thank you for not giving up on us." "You fool, how could I ever give up? You're my husband, Alice's father. Let's have another child together, okay? Give Alice a little brother or sister." I blushed. I wanted a big, lively family. Seeing Pierce's serious expression, I couldn't help but smile. "That depends on how you behave." "I'll definitely behave myself." Pierce kissed me lightly on the forehead. Alice ran over and hugged our legs. "Mom and Dad, let's play in the sand together." "Okay, let's play together." 3 people walked hand in hand toward the beach, leaving a trail of footprints behind them. The sun was setting, and the sea sparkled with ripples. At that moment, everything was perfect. Our love began anew, and our family was reunited. No matter what difficulties we encounter in the future, we will face them together and overcome them together. Because we are family, and we will never be separated. Alice was building a sandcastle on the beach, humming a nursery rhyme, "Daddy and Mommy love Alice, Alice loves Daddy and Mommy." Pierce and I exchanged smiles. This was the life we wanted. Simple, warm, and full of love. 3 years of separation, 3 years of waiting, and 3 years of pain all turned into tears of happiness at this moment.